people are ready to revolt.
But also, Max, isn't it the fact that, if you and your neighbors are all planning the same wealth policy, you're all buying 3 or 4 properties in Dubai, you're all buying 3 or 4 properties in the south of Spain.
Yeah.
But, so you collectively are driving up the price.
Yes.
With the intention of cashing out.
Well, that's, of course, the Norman Bates syndrome, where, people don't understand that the reason the house prices are going up is because they themselves are betting against or playing with themselves.
I was going to say, you have a story where when you were trading options, where you were on a flight and the price moved against you and you landed and you tried to sell or buy or something, and they said, the person on the other end of the phone said, Max, you are the market. This
was back in 1986. I was buying Philip Morris options right before the Philip Morris was going to split 4-for-1. So I was buying the calls, I was buying the options, and I had accumulated a huge position. I was a very big options trader at the time back in 1986. I did about, more than $1 million in business that year, just trading options, nothing else, none of my stock business, bond business, or any of my other business, just options and only options. I was one of the 3 biggest options producers in the entire Shearson, Lehman, Hutton system of 10,000 brokers. And so I had this huge Philip Morris position on the options, on the calls. And so pretty much the deal got delayed, I think, is what happened, or the split got delayed or something happened. So I called up the options trader to dump some of my options at that time, and was informed basically that I was the entire open interest, meaning that there was nobody else anywhere else in the country who owned any of these options. I was the only one. So the floor broker had shorted to me thousands of these contracts himself. So basically, when I called up to sell, he just dropped the bid by 60 or 70%, and I was forced to sell to him, and he made a massive profit. He shorted, he was the market. He was the other side of the trade. So that was I lost millions in one day for some poor client.
But this is kind of what has happened in the property market. These guys try to sell, and they were the only ones buying in a whole residential development sort of situation. They were the ones that bought 10 properties to flip.
Well, it's in the parlance of trading, it's a crowded trade. There's too much money is crowded into one bet, which exposes that particular trade to have a catastrophic loss. And we saw it when we made our film on Iceland. We made the film about the yen carry trade. And the point we made to the bankers in Iceland was that, and we even used that language in the film, that this is a crowded trade. There are hundreds of billions of dollars being waged on a single roll of the dice. If it doesn't come up, lucky 7 or whatever the bet is, you're going to wipe out that entire sector. And sure enough, the entire country was wiped out because the Globe was making this bet of borrowing money in Japan at 1%. And putting it into Icelandic banks that were paying 15%. So they were making 14% on the interest rate arbitrage, on the carry of the interest carry, or that's why it comes up with it's called the carry trade. You're carrying the interest from one country to another, and you're booking the spread as a profit. And of course, you have currency risk, but you can hedge your currency risk, and that might cost you another 2 or 3 or 4% of the 14% net gain. So let's say you're making 9 or 10%, but that's absolutely, on paper anyway, riskless. And you can leverage that up. So you can borrow 30, 40, 50 times your original investment to get that 10% riskless, more or less gain. And then you use the proceeds of that trade to go buy a company, go buy an industry, go buy an airline. All the mergers and acquisitions are financed by unbelievably leverage currency interest rate arbitrage plays between countries back 5 or 6 years ago, with Iceland being the country of destination for hundreds of billions of speculative bets on a country that only has 300,000 people living there, that had a total GDP of something that was less than the entire market capitalization of Google, way less, 1/10. The whole country was worth $13 billion in GDP. And that they had $150, $200 billion worth of leverage bets on the currency arbitrage, and that money was being used to finance acquisitions in the UK and around the world. But of course, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the people who were sucked up in the cult of asset inflation, negative savings, and consumption wickedness will say, you don't get it.
Here's some more numbers. This is interesting.
And I say to them, with my 50,000 ounce of gold bullion and my 30,000 cases of Jack Daniels and my 37 million rounds of 9-point hollow shell 9mm ammunition, go to hell! Go to hell! I don't care about you! Except for the people in Cornwall.
Like you were saying, when you were the only buyer of the options on Philip Morris, the guy on the floor of the stock exchange could force you to have, he could force you to lose 60, 70% because he knew he was the only person that could buy from you. Well, the same thing is happening, I think, with all of these, the banks in the U.S. there's only a few banks, really, and they know that they don't have to extend these loans. They're just waiting for it to continue dropping and for more and more desperation.
Oh, yeah.
So they get to seize all these assets.
Well, that's a good point.
For very cheap because they are the buyer on the floor of the U.S. the U.S. National Stock Exchange.
Yeah, so why buy now?
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to get a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
There's going to be famine. There's going to be social unrest. There's going to be war. And why share the planet with 6 billion people when you can only share the planet with maybe 4 billion people or 3 billion people? Half of them are going to die of starvation. There's more for who's left. And that's the way they think. And,
these people like the Abu Dhabi royal family or the Chinese government, they look at this article and they're sitting there going, ha ha ha, I've just received $12 trillion less than I would have had to pay to buy the country out.
Yeah, look at me. I've got my gold. That's next year, the year after that, I'll probably be buying several houses for not very much of my gold. I'll still have a ton of gold left. Not literally a ton, but a lot of ounces. So, yeah, I'm relishing this. You see, I have a clear conscience because you can't tell me that, oh, Max, you're a greedy guy for buying all these things at the market and people are suffering. But I told people on the show for 4 years to sell, get out, and don't be played for a chump. You're being played for a chump, and people would email me all the time and say, you don't get it, you don't understand, it's a new paradigm, you don't understand economics, you don't understand how markets work. Houses only go up in value. How can you tell people not to buy their house or to sell the house? You're crazy. And now these people are homeless. And it's Darwin's law. Except, what can I say? Some must. What can I say? I'm sorry, but you had your chance, you blew it, and now you have to face the consequences. So now here you have in Japan, where they did the exact same thing America's doing now. Instead of letting banks fail because they were run by crooks, the government went in there and supported the banks with more and more bailout money until the economy became irreparably damaged. And now they're going back to slavery, back to feudalism. As we've been predicting on this show for 4 years, that the end game in this collapse will be feudalism, or as we say, neo-feudalism. Feudalism, where nobody has a job, that can be independent, that will have savings and wealth. You'll be on the frickin' plantation, the factory floor. All of your funds will be completely recycled on the same factory floor. You'll be left with 20 cents a day, to buy a stick of chewing gum, and that's it. And there'll be no way to get out. It's a dystopian nightmare. It's exactly what anyone with common sense would have told you would have happened throughout this entire post-World War II, neoliberal, Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Ayn Rand concocted fabrication of success built on phony premises and conceits of greed that in the end proved detrimental to any notion of freedom in society. And I say unto you, my friends, go down to your library, get a copy of the Bible, bring it home, open it up, cut out all the pages, stick into those pages a very large gun. I'm sorry, I was going to get crazy.